At 14 years old, my mother had just started to trust me enough to leave me home alone. So this must have happened when I was 14. We lived in a quiet residential neighborhood in Zehlendorf, Berlin, which was usually safe. The streets were quiet at night, the yards well kept, neighbors friendly, and a charming local center with a few shops and restaurants. It really wasn't a place where you needed to look over your shoulder at night if you were walking alone or anything like that. It felt safe, which was one of the reasons my parents trusted me alone at home at such a young age. I still live with my parents today in the same house. That night, it was a weekend in the winter of 2008. My parents left me alone at home overnight. When we were very young, my grandparents would look after my older sister and me. But since my sister wasn't home for whatever reason, and because I was old enough to be left alone at that age, my parents decided to trust me on my own. My parents had us young, so they were always a bit more active in the sense that they often traveled or went out on weekends with their friends. They left me some cash for pizza for dinner. It was an ideal night for a 14-year-old. Home alone, playing video games all night, and pizza for dinner. I used to be obsessed with action-adventure games like Grand Theft Auto 4 on my PS3, so I was playing that game for the third time. After I reached a good save point, I decided to order pizza. There was a pizza place right near our house called Da Enzo. It's been closed for years now, but it was one of my family's favorite pizza places. I ordered my usual pizza. At 14, I could easily eat 4 slices by myself. My mom told me to wrap the leftover slices in aluminum foil and put them in the fridge. I swapped discs for another video game in the meantime while I waited for the pizza, and when the doorbell finally rang, I rushed downstairs with the 20 euros my parents had left me. My mom told me to tip 3 euros. The pizza place was like 3 blocks away, so honestly it wasn't a bad tip, especially for back then. The pizza delivery man was a guy in his early 30s, though he looked a bit disheveled, like he had a really long, dirty beard. He also wore glasses and a black beanie. I handed him the 20 euros and asked for specific change. As he handed over the box and counted the change, he looked at me, then glanced past me into the house and said, "Are you here alone?" I knew it was a strange, creepy question, and my parents had taught me well about being careful with strangers. I said my parents were on their way home. A stupid answer in retrospect. I could have just said no, but I knew he was asking because, first of all, there was no car in the driveway, and the fact that a kid was receiving pizza at the door instead of an adult. After he handed over the change, I closed the door. I ate in the kitchen, probably 4 slices, then wrapped the rest and put it in the fridge. I went back upstairs and played my other PS3 game, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. I liked this one less than GTA 4, but it was still good. Hours passed. It must have been around 11 p.m. when the doorbell rang. Naturally thinking it was my parents, I rushed downstairs to the door. I said through the door, "Mama, Papa?" But an unfamiliar voice from the other side said, "Hey, I need help." They said they needed to use the phone. I said, "Who is this?" And he repeated that he just needed to use the phone. I didn't want to peek through the window because honestly, I was scared. I decided to go upstairs and ignore it. I knew from common sense alone that opening that door was a terrible, terrible idea. I was walking up the stairs, which are right in front of the front door, when the man outside slammed the door and I heard him say, "Wait, please, I need help." That meant he saw me. He was watching through the glass at the top of the door. I turned around, and even though it was dark on the front porch, I could still make out the silhouette of the man's head. Although I couldn't see his eyes, it was clear that he was staring back at me. I ran upstairs and into my parents' room. The only landline phone upstairs was in my parents' room. So, I immediately went to the phone and also grabbed my smartphone to call my mom's cell number. I didn't have my dad's number memorized at that age. My mom picked up the phone, likely under the influence of a few glasses of wine at her friend's gathering, and then I told her there was someone at the door asking to come in. This comment likely sobered her up instantly, because I remember her tone changing dramatically, and she sounded much louder and more worried. She questioned me a few times. First, if I had answered the man, or at all, made him aware I was home, and I told the truth and said yes. I asked who it was. My mom's voice grew more worried. She asked me if for any reason someone knew I was alone there, and I immediately thought of the pizza delivery man. I told her that the pizza delivery man asked if I was alone here, and around this time, the doorbell rang twice more. I told my mom, frantically expressing that the man would not leave. My mom told me to stay in their room and keep the bedroom door locked. She said they would call the police. My mom stayed connected with me on her smartphone while they called the police using my dad's phone. They had to leave the restaurant they were at to go outside to communicate better. It was a winter night. All the windows were slightly closed, but a few were open a crack for air circulation, and through my parents' bedroom window, I heard the gate on one side of the house leading to the backyard open. It opened very carefully, softly. I told this to my mom, and she kept telling me to stay quiet, stay in their room, and keep the lights off. I quietly said into the phone, "What if he tries to get in through the living room window?" My mom would tell me to stop talking and wait for the police. She would keep talking on the phone, giving me updates from the police and their estimated time of arrival, ETA, reminding me also not to talk. I started to calm down a bit when I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps downstairs, the footsteps of someone inside the house roaming around. I whispered this frantically to my mom, and I heard her yell something into the other phone to the police. Probably something like, "The man is inside the house. Hurry up." My mom told me to hide under the bed and wait there. For 14-year-old me, it was the most terrifying, surreal moment of my life. The only thing that made me feel relatively protected was the small lock on my parents' bedroom door. I heard footsteps coming up the stairs. The stairs are near my sister's and my room's at the end of the hall. My parents' room is further down. The footsteps faded for a while. I assumed the intruder went into our rooms, searching. My mom said the police would break in and not to move until they were inside. I heard footsteps in the hallway approaching this way until they reached the bedroom door, and then they tried to press the doorknob only to find it locked. They tried several times as if it would magically open the door. Then there was a light knock on the door, but the person on the other side didn't utter a word. They tried the doorknob one more time before I heard the footsteps return down the hall, then down the stairs and fading deeper into the house. I tried my hardest not to cry the whole time. I didn't even whisper anything into the phone because I was too scared to make the slightest sound. My mom finally told me that the police were already there, but to stay put. I expected to hear them break down the door, but instead, I suddenly heard some heavy footsteps and a man yelling my name, introducing himself as a police officer. I heard them come up the stairs, and my mom gave me permission to answer them and unlock the door. There were 2 officers upstairs when I opened the door, and then 2 more downstairs. They didn't need to break down the front door because the back door was left completely open. The back sliding window was also fully open, which was the obvious original point of entry. I had to talk to the police and tell them everything that happened, including my suspicion of the pizza delivery man, with my parents listening on the smartphone. They were on their way home, and by the time they returned, only 2 police officers were still in the house. With the police report including notes about the pizza delivery man, they said they would conduct an investigation. My parents took me to Da Enzo Pizzeria the next night and asked me to point out the man if I saw him. When I didn't see him, they asked the manager which employee matched the description of the pizza delivery man I described. He said it was Klaus, who was out on a delivery at the time. After explaining the whole scenario, he said it couldn't possibly be Klaus and asked us to leave the premises. Long story short, my parents made a huge fuss at the pizza place, and they said they would never give them our business again. We went to the car and waited in the parking lot. We waited for almost an hour, and when he never showed up, we left. My parents thought it was because the manager called or messaged the employee, which caused him not to return, but who knows. My parents contacted several lawyers who ultimately didn't take the case due to lack of strong evidence, stating it would be a waste of time, essentially. In the end, we never went back to that pizza place, and not long after that, my parents felt safe leaving me home alone again, only because of this incident. In the end, I do think it was the pizza delivery man, or at least someone associated with him, because who else would know I was home alone? One night in the winter of 2012, when I was 17, my parents and I moved from Vancouver, Canada to a remote mountainous area in Scotland near Loch Ness. My parents had just retired and built their dream home deep in the backcountry. We had no visible neighbors, just endless pine forest and moorland that directly bordered a nature conservation area and vast private estates. The house was enormous, 2 stories with a small turret, a private gym, a full bar and pool room, and a legitimate home theater set up in the basement. It felt like many people's dream home, secluded, quiet, perfect, or so it seemed. I was dating my high school girlfriend at the time. One night, when my parents were out on a date in Inverness, I invited her over to watch a movie. We were truly alone. I cracked open a bottle of Scotch whiskey. I was still underage, but figured no one would care. And we headed down to the movie room to watch The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. Everything started normally, but at some point midway through the movie, maybe nearing midnight, something shifted within me. Out of nowhere, I was overcome with this fight-or-flight feeling. It felt like my body was sensing something my brain couldn't see. My heart was pounding, and I kept glancing at the large, uncovered windows behind us that faced the pitch-black pine forest. I didn't want to freak my girlfriend out, so I kept it to myself. In fact, things were getting a little heated between us during the movie, but all the while I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. I didn't know from where, but I knew. After the movie ended, I walked her upstairs and to her car. The house was silent again. She left and I turned to head back in when I remembered I left the bar, pool room, and movie room lights on. So, I headed back downstairs. I turned off the lights in the movie room first, then stopped. My eyes fixed on the large window facing the backyard, and that's when I saw him. God, he looked like a tramp. Disheveled hair, dirty clothes. But what froze me was his expression. He had the biggest, creepiest smile I had ever seen, with wide, bulging eyes that looked completely insane. And in his hand was a hunting knife. He was gently tapping it on the glass repeatedly. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. I slowly backed away and went to the bar room to turn off the rest of the lights. That room had a sliding glass door that also faced the forest. I flipped the switch and watched in horror as the man calmly walked from the window to the door, still smiling, still staring. At this point, we were less than a foot apart, just glass between us. He didn't try to get in. He didn't move at all. He just watched me. I went upstairs without a word. Just then, my parents were walking in through the door. I told them, I think I need to go to a psychiatrist or something. I swear I just saw a man with a knife watching me outside. My mom went white. My dad's eyes narrowed, and without a word, he went to the gun cabinet, grabbed his hunting rifle, and rushed outside to check the property. I asked my mom what was going on, and she said, "There have been some break-ins in the area. A man has been lurking in the woods trying to get into homes. The description you gave perfectly matches." The Scottish police were called, but they didn't find anything. No signs of entry, no footprints, just cold, dark pine forest. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. That night, as I tried to sleep, I could hear a faint tapping sound below me. My bedroom was on the second floor, directly above the movie room. It sounded like metal, gently tapping on glass. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. The tapping went on for hours. This happened night after night for weeks. Sometimes it would stop. Sometimes I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and hear it faintly again. I even thought I heard footsteps on the roof one night. I checked the windows, but I never saw anyone. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being stalked, watched. Then the true winter arrived with snowstorms. My parents had to go to Edinburgh for a few days, but they were still nervous about what had happened. Before they left, they gave me the hunting rifle just in case. We also had a large Scottish deerhound, the sweetest dog you'd ever meet, and completely silent, unless there was truly something there. One night when I was home alone, I heard faint footsteps in the snow outside, heavy and deliberate. The dog stood up, ears perked, and started a low, deep growl at the front door, then barked viciously, loudly, and relentlessly. He only ever did that when he saw something real. I stayed silent. I didn't want whoever was outside to know why I was home. I didn't move. Then came the tapping. Faint, hollow, and mocking. I didn't answer. I slept with the hunting rifle next to me that night. Doors locked, blinds drawn, dog at my feet. The next morning I went outside and saw something that turned my stomach. Footprints, Fresh human footprints circled the entire house. They stopped at every window, as if someone was trying to peek in, looking for me. I followed the footprints around the property and they eventually led into the woods. I followed them for maybe half a mile before they started winding, veering off, doubling back as if whoever made them was trying to throw me off their trail. I turned back. Something told me it was a bad idea to keep going. That night, the tapping returned, louder this time. I knew it was him. I unlocked my door, grabbed my hunting rifle, and stepped out onto the second-story deck. I turned on the floodlights that illuminated the backyard. He was there. The same man, the same smile, and the same dead eyes. He was holding the hunting knife again, staring straight at me as if he could see right through me. I raised the rifle and yelled, "If you don't leave, I'm going to shoot you." He didn't move or flinch, just stared, unblinking, grinning. I fired a warning shot into the air and I finally got a reaction. He flinched slightly, then slowly backed into the woods, still facing me. That's when I decided to unleash the dog. I ran downstairs, opened the sliding door, and let him loose. He shot into the woods like a black missile, barking and growling. I had never seen him that aggressive. He had a tracking collar, so he couldn't go far. But I like to think he scared the man away for good, because after that night, I never saw him again. This happened in December 2018, during winter break. I was 20 years old. My friends and I, 6 of us in total, decided to rent a chalet in the Swiss Alps for a few days just to get away from everything. No college, no stress, no phones. It was supposed to be one of those chill trips where you drink too much, play music too loud, and maybe make some memories you'd laugh about later. There were 4 guys among us, myself, Matt, Chris, and Tyler, and 2 girls, Jess and Sarah. We had all been close since our freshman year of college. The chalet we picked was incredibly cheap for its size. 2 stories, a wraparound balcony, 2 bathrooms, and listed as being on private land near Lake Geneva. It was incredibly remote. No towns for miles, surrounded by dense pine forest. The owner had a thick Swiss-German accent and sounded a bit odd when we talked to him on the phone. All he said was, "Don't venture too far into the woods. There are some old things out there, ruins, broken fences, wildlife. You don't want to get lost." We laughed it off. We thought he was just trying to add some creepy, mountainous charm to the trip. But when we got there, it wasn't funny. The drive took forever. The GPS died an hour before we arrived. The last part of the road was just dirt and gravel, barely wide enough for 1 car. The pine trees got denser the closer we got. When we finally saw the chalet, we all got a little quiet. It didn't look like the pictures. It was older and dirtier. The windows were grimy, and some of the shutters were hanging off their hinges. There was a faint smell outside, like melting snow and wet wood. We brushed it off and made jokes, saying it just added character. We unloaded our stuff, picked rooms, and started drinking local wine by 7 p.m. The first night was great. We grilled outside over a bonfire, played loud music from a portable sound system, and played some card games. Around 11 p.m., the air got cold, so we moved inside. That's when I realized how dark the forest was. I don't mean dark like a normal night, I mean absolute darkness. The porch lights barely illuminated more than a few feet, and the pine trees were so dense it felt like they were pressing in from all sides. No bugs, no wind, just thick silence. We finally fell asleep around 2 a.m. I got one of the downstairs rooms right off the kitchen, small with just a bed and a window facing the woods. Around 4:15, I woke up. No reason, just fully awake like something had touched me. I lay there for a bit, heart pounding. Then I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. At first, I thought it was the heater, but then it repeated. Steady, not a metallic sound, not a mechanical sound. It sounded like fingers. I looked at the window and there was a man standing there. He was pressed against the glass, his face almost touching, pale skin, disheveled hair, no shirt, just staring in. His mouth was slightly open like he was breathing through it. His eyes were wide. He didn't blink. He didn't move. He just stood there and tapped softly and slowly as if he was trying to annoy me. I felt my body lock up. Then the tapping sped up a little. I whispered to Matt, who was sleeping on the couch just outside my room. I called his name again louder. He woke up groggily and asked what I wanted, and I just pointed. He looked over, saw the man, and instantly jumped up, knocking over a coffee table. That must have scared the man because by the time Matt turned on the porch light and ran outside, he was gone. We were all up. The girls were terrified. Tyler tried to convince everyone it was just a drunk local messing with us. Chris said maybe it was a lost hiker, but I knew it was that man watching me. He wasn't lost. We blocked the doors, moved the sofa in front of the large living room window, and took turns standing guard for a few hours. Nothing else happened that night. The next morning we went outside. There were footprints, bare human footprints, circling the entire chalet. They stopped at every window, every single window, even the small one above the upstairs bathroom. That should have been enough. We should have left, but we didn't. We were stupid and stubborn, and we stayed. The second night started the same. Drinks, music, bonfire, but the energy was different. Everyone kept glancing at the woods. Jess wasn't drinking, and Chris kept his Swiss Army knife on his belt. When we finally went inside, we locked every window and double-checked the doors. Around 3:30 a.m., Matt went to the kitchen to get some water. He stopped in the hallway and called my name. I woke up and saw him standing there pointing. There was someone in the kitchen, the same man from before, but this time he was inside, naked. His back was to us, covered in long, raw-looking scratches. He was standing in front of the fridge, staring at it as if he didn't know what it was. He was making a slow rocking motion as if he was swaying in place. Matt didn't speak. He just backed away. We all gathered silently at the entrance to the hallway. I had a folding knife. Sarah had an iron fireplace poker. Chris picked up one of the chair legs that had broken earlier because he was trying to be funny. We turned on the lights. The man was gone. The back door was wide open, but it wasn't broken. It wasn't forced. It was just open. We left 20 minutes later. No one argued. We just packed the essentials, wallets, keys, phones, and drove through the forest until we had enough signal to call the Swiss police. When we met the deputy at a restaurant near the highway, he didn't look surprised at all. He asked if anyone was hurt, then said, "Yeah, we have a problem with people living out in those woods. Not always sane." We tried to explain that it wasn't just a regular tramp. This man was watching us, came back 2 nights in a row, and had a key or somehow got inside. The deputy just nodded as if he had heard it all before. When we mentioned the owner, his face almost implied he knew the man. The chalet rental listing disappeared a few days later, completely wiped from every rental site. We never got answers and never got a call. We didn't even get our deposit back. But that face, the way he stared at me through the window, I still see it sometimes when I wake up at night. We don't talk much about that trip anymore, but as far as I know, none of us have been back to Switzerland since.